Forge FC is ready for their upcoming match.
Simply stunning stuff. And finally, their goal. My word, what a rocket.
Now, let's get you up to date with Anthony Urciuoli and Match Day Preview on the Forge Audio Network.
Hey now, Forge fans. Welcome to the home match playoff edition of the Match Day Preview. Forge FC hosting Calvary FC. 90 minutes. In 90 minutes, not from now, but from kickoff, we will know whether Forge will be participating in their fourth consecutive CPL final, because the second leg of the semi-final happens at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. 5 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. That first match, 1-1 draw, basically didn't even happen. All it comes down to, with the aggregate tied, is win and you are in. Hopefully it just takes 90 minutes and we've talked about it. If you haven't, by the way, if you don't subscribe to Forge content or the Forge Audio Network, I recommend you do so and catch up to make sure you are fully primed for this second leg semi-final, because we talked a lot about it on the episode of Focus on Forge. At least the club did. And I spoke to Mitchell Tierney from CanPL.ca, and he kind of reiterated it. Forge feels like they're the better club. They're certainly the better club going into this one because they're at home, so they have the edge. You do not want to leave this up to chance and have this go to penalty kicks and essentially make it a coin flip at that point when you already... In fact, what you're doing is you're giving Calvary a chance here. You're leveling the playing field for them by not trying to finish this in 90 minutes where you will have the advantage. But having said that, I mean, if it gets to that point and Forge has to win, I mean, that's just the way it'll have to be. But this is a club that will try to win in 90 minutes. And we talked about it after that first match in Calgary. Forge did not play like an away side in a must-win playoff game. It was a club that came out, played exactly the way that they wanted to play, on the front foot, with the possession, with controlling some of the attack. In Calvary, surprising to some, not so much to others, decided to sit back and try to beat Forge on the counter. And they were successful at it. I mean, they had a lot. They created a lot of chances off of the counter, and this is something that Forge... I mean, there's no surprises here. These clubs have seen each other enough. The coaches know each other so well. I don't know how much you can surprise the other coach when it comes, tactically. On some things you can, some free kicks, some set pieces, those kinds of things, you can add some wrinkles. But ultimately, I think these two clubs know what the other brings. And what Calvary knows Forge is going to bring, especially at home. I mean, after seeing the way that match went in Calgary, you can imagine Forge is going to be even more dominant on the ball in this match, with Calvary playing even more into maybe a bit of a shell and trying to beat Forge on the counter, which is usually the case in matches like this, in big matches and playoff matches. The result typically comes down to one mistake, one missed call by the officials, one call by the officials that shouldn't have been. The margins are razor thin in matches like this, and both teams are well aware. But having said that, you can't play scared either, and scared to make a mistake. So speaking of that, we're going to check in with head coach, technical director of Forge FC, Bobby Smyrniotis. We're also going to hear from attacker Tristan Borges, and we are going to check in with the enemy, although it's not really an enemy. For gamesmanship purposes, we'll call them the enemy and call him the enemy. But Todd Saelhof, actually a really good friend of the program here, from the Calgary Sun, Calgary Herald, is going to step into the ring here, and we'll tee up that match between Forge and Calvary and get that Calvary perspective on things. Before we get to that, though, you need to be made aware of something. First of all, what better way to spend your Sunday than at Tim Hortons Field? We're expecting beautiful, beautiful October weather in Hamilton, and you can be there live to watch this second leg semifinal, and you can witness live Forge potentially clinching a spot in the CPL final, maybe even hosting a CPL final in Hamilton. There's a long way to go there, because if you're a Forge fan, you need Pacific to somehow erase that 2-goal deficit they've built in the first match against Atletico Ottawa and come back and win. So Pacific wins, Forge would host a final. The winner of Forge and Calvary will host the final if Pacific comes back and wins in that second leg. And the best part is you'll know while you're in your seats at Tim Hortons Field, I'll be there. I'll be there to update you. I'll grab the mic and I will let you know whether Forge has an opportunity to play in that CPL final at home, because by that point, the other match will be completed because they play at 2:00 and Forge plays at 5. So we'll know going into that match whether Forge has a potential to host or not. But at the end of the day, I don't think Forge cares. I mean, they'd prefer to be at home, but I mean, you'll hear the same thing from players, coaches. I mean, they won 2 titles away from home. They're not worried about having to win in someone else's stadium. And be nice if it was at home. If it's not, there's a job to do, and Forge will look to get it done. Now, if you are planning to head down to Tim Hortons Field on Sunday, but you haven't purchased your tickets yet, you're going to want to know this. The Forge FC Family Pack is back. It's the playoff edition. It's the semi-final edition. There's going to be trick-or-treating. Kids are encouraged to wear their costume. There'll be prizes for the best dressed. You will also receive a $25 Tim Hortons Field Rewards card that can be used toward any food or beverage items, or even Forge FC merchandise. $25 towards anything you want to purchase at Tim Hortons Field. And that is included in the Forge FC Family Pack. It starts at $33 per ticket. So you get your ticket to the match. You get trick-or-treating in the Stipley Fan Zone, prizes for the best dressed. So kids, wear your costumes. $25 Tim Hortons Field Rewards card. And autographs with team members of the Canadian National Men's Team. Members of the Canadian National Team will be there too. And you can get their autographs. That's all for $33. And a lot of the fun's happening in the Stipley Fan Zone. So make sure you purchase your tickets, purchase the family pack, and get on down to Tim Hortons Field and enjoy your beautiful Sunday watching some playoff soccer. All right. Bobby Smyrniotis, pre-match, teeing things up and what his club expects heading into that second leg against Calvary at home.
Well, I think you've got to be aware that an opponent in a lot of these situations, and what Cavalry showed at playing at their own home pitch, which they usually don't do, is that they're waiting to play on the counterattack. They're not, really phrase it as they're waiting for your mistakes, but they're waiting for the counter moments. So we have to be very good at that. Our counter press has been excellent throughout the season. Our position play and our play further up the pitch has been very good. So we just need to be good at what's gotten us here, and even better. Now, just making sure we have the right details, and if we're losing that ball, making sure that it's in behind of our opponent, and be able to neutralize that part of the game. If that's our game plan coming in, but we've prepared for all scenarios, because the one thing in these situations, I've done it in the past myself, that I flipped exactly what we've been doing all season and done something different in a game like this. So you should be prepared for it on the other side.
Hey, Coach, how do you balance the confidence level of your group of having a little bit of swagger going out there on your own pitch, but also, not taking the moment or the opponent for granted in the final, in the 90 minutes here?
Yeah, I think that's something we build over time, not only through the season, but over the course of this club and my existence here. I don't think apart from lifting of trophy, you ever really see us celebrate. For me, maybe it's a 5-minute span and then off you go because you got more work to do. So it's something that's through this group, they don't really celebrate a lot. They don't get overexcited about things because they know that the task at hand is the most important thing. And I think that's what you have here. It's great. We've got them on our pitch here, and we win the majority of our matches here, but we've also lost games here. So you just need to make sure you take the energy of the crowd. You make sure that you're sharp in doing what you do. And we know when those two things combined, a lot of positivity comes out of us playing here at Tim Hortons Field. All
right, there's the coach. And now let's hear from the attacker, one of the OG Forge FC members, Tristan Borges. He's won a pair of titles. He's been to the finals 3 times in 3 years, looking for a 4th. Here's Borges.
I think it's obviously something that, we looked forward to from the first game. I think just what we've set as the standards for Forge is especially after that first year winning, it's just consistently try to do it every single year, right? Obviously, every team wants to win, but for us, it's just trying to understand that we have the experience to just go out there and do it again. And For us, for me individually, I think, I've said it quite quite many times that, for me, it's just about winning. And, whether I'm the one scoring, whether it's going to be our striker, our center back, it could be anybody. But for me, it's just about winning. And, now we put ourselves in a situation to be able to go for another finals, right? And for me, it's when I get in a moment like this, I really look at, how the season went and look at all the ups and downs that we've been through. And at the end of the day, this is what we've worked for, a moment like this. So obviously the excitement is there, but I definitely know it means a lot, not only for myself, but for everybody at the club. And for us, it's just, that's always been the standard. And, like I said, we've done enough this year to put us in a situation like this. And now it's just about executing it.
All right, it's clear. Forge, they are ready. I talked to Bobby about this earlier, and you can catch up on your Forge content, of course. However, wherever you get your Forge content, whether it's through YouTube, subscribing to the podcast, through social media, whatever it is, subscribe to all of them, turn on your notifications, make sure you are kept up to date, up to the second, because behind the beard earlier this week, I spoke to Bobby, and we likened it to almost, you're a parent, you've done everything you could, you're sending your kid off to college. Now it's just up to them, and you trust that you've instilled enough into them that they can now execute and make good choices. That's kind of where we're at here with Forge FC. The message has been delivered. It's up to the players now to deliver. And it's up to us, as part of the Forge Audio Network, to deliver a match day preview and get you set, get you hyped for the matchup. And to do that, we'll bring in Todd Saelhof. Todd Saelhof, Calgary Sun, Calgary Herald. Does it ever get tiring having to say both, or have you shortened it somehow?
Well, sometimes we say post media just to make it easier, right? But
Yeah.
it does get kind of silly, to be honest with you. So.
It's funny after last match because both teams had different outlooks on how the game went. For Forge, they thought they were the better team. They liked that they controlled possession. And the draw was favorable for Forge. The Cavalry side, though, they didn't seem to mind Forge's possession, and they they big dealed it kind of thing. What's your takeaway from Cavalry's response to that opening tie?
Well, I think the takeaway is they feel that that Forge likes to have the ball and likes to press up, and they like the idea of hitting back with the counter. And, sometimes you play into the other guy's strengths to expose the weaknesses. It seems like it's always kind of been that way when Tommy Wheeldon Jr. plays against Forge as he likes. I remember back in 2019, he said, we decided we were going to let them have possession in the first half of that leg one. And that was unlike something they'd done through most of the season leading up to that game. So not a surprise that they decided to play that way. You're playing with a little bit of fire, but on the other hand, they got chances, and they could have. I mean, that first half could have been 2-2 or more.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. And I think what was surprising was that they did it at home. I think for an away match. Maybe it was a little more expected, but you thought maybe Calvary being at home with the fans behind them. But to their credit, they stuck to their game plan.
Yeah, it's always a chess match with these two coaches. They respect each other so much, and they go back and forth. And Tommy's just trying to find the right mix, the right chemistry, the right move to make things happen, to beat Forge when it's crunch time, because it just hasn't happened.
So what do you think Calvary's approach is? Is it just more of the same then heading into this next leg in Hamilton?
Possibly, but Tommy likes to throw curveballs, so let's see what happens. They might come out and pressure hard. You do have to. You're on the road now, and Tim Hortons Field is a tough place to play, and he knows that, and the players know that, so they're probably going to go hard. I would think, I would expect a little more pressure right off the bat from them. When they pressured Forge earlier in the regular season here, it worked to their advantage. They got an early goal. Then they had a bit of a breakdown, and it amounted in a 1-1 game, and Cavalry put the pressure on again. And it ended 2-1 late with a goal, by by Cavalry, and it changed it. It gave them real hope that they can beat this team coming into the playoffs, and I think they can. They just have to find a way to keep the pressure up at the right times and not fall victim to watching Forge when they start the pressure, because sometimes that's what happens.
And Calvary's just talked about the fact that, Tim Hortons Field does also play itself and lend itself to some of Calvary's strengths. They like the bigger field. They love the quality of the turf. And they didn't seem like a club, at least in what they're saying. I mean, part of it's gamesmanship, of course, but it doesn't seem like a club that's too worried going into Hamilton.
Yeah, and I know they don't want to get too down on themselves either. I mean, you're saying the right things. You're right, it's gamesmanship, but it's also, you know what, you got to keep your players pumped up. So I mean, you have your coach and your captain talking after the game, saying, you know what, we're good with what's happened, and let's just go ahead. They didn't like the goal. They didn't like the way it happened. They didn't like the fact that they came out of the dressing room at halftime, and then it all of a sudden, there's Kyle Becker again doing his thing, and it's a goal, and Pasha Swoobin on the other end, goal. It was tough for them to swallow. I know that, and they probably would have been very disappointed in that. But they can't hang their heads, and they can't walk around going, "Oh well, this happened. Now what are we going to do?" They need to stay positive, be positive, because a lot of people will think that the cards are stacked against them, and they don't need to hear that. Their players don't need to hear that. They need to be upbeat, positive, and they're a successful enough team that one of these days are going to pull it out, and it might be Sunday.
Yeah, it's at a point now where these clubs are so evenly matched. We see it all the time that it takes sometimes that one mistake, that one set piece, that one crossbar, that one chance that really completely changes the outcome of the match. Take us back to that leg one match in Calgary in Foothills County and the atmosphere there. I mean, was it a noticeably different playoff type atmosphere in Calgary in that first matchup?
It's been a long time, I shouldn't say a long time coming since they had a playoff game. They had one last year against Pacific. Didn't go well as well. Long time since they played Forge. It's been, now or 3 years or whatever it is. There's definite animosity among the fan base towards Forge, as there should be. There's definitely some charged electricity in the stands. They would have liked a few more days to have sold that game to the city of Calgary and the people of Calgary. I always think that's, they shouldn't have to sell anything, because people know the playoff game's coming Saturday or Sunday, and a pretty good chance it's going to be the 50-50 chance it was going to be here. We knew this a long time ago. It was going to be Saturday or Sunday here in Calgary, and we probably thought it would be Saturday. People should have known that. It wouldn't have been that hard to figure out. So I'm not sure that I can say that I think the attendance should have been better, and that's the fans' fault. That's nothing else. I don't think it's got anything to do with the league or the team or anything like that. There should have been more people. So was it as electric as it could have been? Probably not, but it was pretty raucous, and there was some good some good energy in the stands. And just when you look at it and we compare it to other games, it's pretty right on par with what we've seen in the past, and with maybe just a little bit more of that angst and energy to build it a little bit.
That's interesting. I never thought of it just in terms of, hosting the first or second match. The second match, hosting that one is an advantage in the sense that, the teams know what they have to play for now, and that deciding game is at home in that. But I had never really thought of it, as far as the perspective of it's more time to also promote the match and sell tickets to the match and kind of build something there. And I'd never thought about it that way because, of course, Forge is doing what they're doing over the past couple of weeks and really piping up this game, and for good reason. But yeah, you miss a week of ticket sales in a sense, and that's something I never really thought of.
You do. I just think that if fans want to go, they're going to go, and they should know ahead of time what's happening.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of sympathy for saying to the fans, it's okay, you didn't know it was happening. No. Yeah. I don't think that's right. I think if fans are going to come in and represent their team, they've got enough cachet in this market that they should be able to fill that building, that facility on 4 or 5 days notice. I mean, it's going to happen again for the final. Whoever, it wouldn't now, but say if Victoria, it could still. I'm counting out Pacific here, and
I know, yeah.
But I mean, it could happen again. It's going to be a quick turnaround, 5 days. 6 days. It'll be Saturday in Calgary if Cavalry win, and if Pacific comes back, storms back against Ottawa, it'll be here. It'll be in 6 days. So it's going to be a short turnaround time. But we've known for months that it was going to be this Saturday or this Sunday, the next Saturday or next Sunday. So I don't think there's any way to say, hey, you know what, the fans didn't know about this. That's not logical to me.
Is the grounds there at Spruce Meadows? I mean, maybe just give us the look here. How far is it from Calgary, and in terms of accessibility and it's population and that kind of thing?
It's basically right on the outskirts of Calgary. I mean, it's in the south end of Calgary, south central, not very far, just off to the west of McLeod Trail, which is the major artery north and south from downtown. The outside ring road, it's just to the south of the outside ring road. It's easy to get to because of the ring road. Now everybody from the northwest can get there quicker. Everybody from the northeast can get there quicker. It's built in the southeast. The southwest isn't very far. It's not far at all to get to. Honestly, I hear that as well. It's too far for me to go. Well, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And there's going to be Saturday traffic. Leave, that'll make it 30 minutes maybe, but
yeah, it's a sporting event. I
don't buy that. I mean, I guess I'm one of these guys that thinks everybody says, well, the Senators don't get enough spectators because their arenas in Canada. I lived there. I went to those games. It wasn't that bad.
Right. Yeah. If you want to go, you'll find a way to get there.
You'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of why I was asking. I was wondering but I don't see a ton of hindrances.
It's 2 minutes from it's 5 minutes from thousands of houses right there in the southeast, and then it's the southwest is only 15 minutes away. It's not that far. So
it's Calvary's had so many good seasons.
Southwest, southeast.
Yeah. But all the good seasons and all the success Cavalry has had, they are still missing the big one. I mean, do you kind of get to a point where it's like, hey, the old Atlanta Braves thing? Yeah, that's great that you're winning a lot, but we want to start seeing some championships.
Yeah, Minnesota Twins. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think so. I think there's a little bit of heat on them for that. I think they know it. They feel it. I mean, they feel like maybe they didn't get their just due, a couple of years in a row when they finished first overall in the league. And you've got other domestic leagues across the world that celebrate that. And there's certainly some logic to that there should be,
I think so,
more celebration and more of an advantage. I think it's a big deal. And then you play all these games, and then you come down to a two-legged semi and a one-legged championship. I'm not a soccer purist. I'm still learning the game. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I don't understand how you can have a two-legged playoff and then a one-legged championship. I think it's got to be at very least the other way around, or 2 and 2. I don't get that. And everybody says, well, that's the way they do it in a lot of leagues. And I guess I don't think it makes sense. I think you should be playing for that final. I loved the way the 2019 one was set up when you had the two-legged final. I thought that was perfect. But if you want to put it this way, the higher seeded team gets the advantage. In a one-legged final, there's your advantage, right? There's what I was just saying a second ago, that you have that advantage because you've finished higher in the standings. Then you should have that advantage, whether it's Ottawa, whether it's Hamilton, whether it's Calgary. So
yeah. Well, I think this is our third or fourth time chatting this year. So second.
Yeah, second time. I think so.
Okay. I'm leaning on third. I don't know. We'll have to double check.
My memory's
we'll have to go into the archives. But I the point is we could be talking, another 3-4 times next year, just because the way this league is set up. And it seems like these two they're headed toward a collision path at some point, and typically it's at the end of the year. But I mean, this is the best way to do it. And you can say arguably these are the top two clubs in the league, but Ottawa, who we still aren't giving enough respect to, even after they just one-handedly on the road. I mean, that's as impressive as a victory as you could get, and they're still kind of battling for respect. So
and why aren't we?
Yeah.
That's why aren't we? Where is it?
Yeah.
Is it because they've come out of nowhere this year? Is that what it is?
Yeah, or maybe the style. It's not the most exciting kind of style of play, I guess. But yeah, the results. I mean, you can't argue with them.
Well, I mean, the thing is they play Cavalry, and Cavalry can't. They park a bus, and Cavalry can't get through, and Ottawa winds up coming the other way and scoring goals that they probably shouldn't score. And it's at the end of the night, it's 3-1 or whatever, and you're looking at it and going, but Cavalry dominated. Like what we and I, Tommy's well aware of that. He always says, well, possession's great, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not scoring. So that's why I think that's the other reason they come out of last week's leg one. They say, yeah, Forge had possession. They scored one goal. Didn't mean much, right? So so he's okay with that. It's just as long as your defense has got to be stellar when you're doing that kind of stuff, right? And and honestly, the pressure game, it's more fun to watch. Fans love that. I love that. Mm-hmm. That's something that Tommy really has preached since day one, is he wants to entertain the fans. So bring on the pressure.
Yeah, well, it'll be an entertaining one this weekend. Todd Saelhof, Calgary Sun, Calgary Herald, Post Media.
Calgary, yeah, whatever you want to say.
All of it. He works everywhere in Calgary, apparently. Todd, thanks so much for doing this again.
Thanks very much, Anthony. We'll talk to you later, and hope it's a good one Sunday. I'm sure it will be.
All right, now I almost feel like the parent who's I've given you everything you need. Now it's time for you to just soak it in and enjoy the match. That's all you don't have to do anything but enjoy, purchase your tickets. You will be encouraged to make some noise. We need you to make some noise while you're there. ForgeFC.ca/tickets. Be part of Forge FC history. Okay. Still coming up on the Forge Audio Network with me, your host. You're going to get 3 keys to the match dropping very shortly, so make sure you subscribe. And by the end of it, you'll know just as much as the players do as you're taking in all the action at Tim Hortons Field. We'll talk to you soon.
Forge FC is prepared, and now you are informed. This has been Match Day Preview with Anthony Urciuoli on the Forge Audio Network. Subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.